Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. I'm Jean Fallacara, and we're here to discuss business, science, and mindset. My guests here are not to sell anything. They are here to open their book of life. We want to understand what their purpose, goal, value, and priority are. I want to look at their action, their behavior over time, and consider what kind of background and experiences they're coming from to be the man and woman they are today. No BS, no cat. This is the No Plan B podcast. Welcome. Here's the man. How are you?
Hey, recording in progress.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I think it's better to see the image behind you. I'm not quite sure who I'm going to look at. Come on, come on, man.
Actually, you know what? This is coming from the West Coast. Is a group of artists that were actually taking like billboards like that, and it was a group starting from the tattoo industry, and they were tagging Will Rise. The 7 letters is the group of street artists, and this piece of art is coming. I think I don't remember if it's Los Angeles or San Francisco, one of these two places.
Okay. Well, it's eye-catching. Let me say that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
You know, I've had from a few of your photos, I've had little peeks at your art collection, and it's attractive. It's fascinating. You have taste.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what kind of taste.
What does that mean?
It means it's cool. It's non-conventional. Yeah. It's very hip. It's very current. And, there are lots of, I think art is supposed to help us keep alive, I think,
Absolutely. It keeps our mind in a state of in between relaxation, meditation, and thinking. Yeah. And for me, art is really the projection of, I would say, my personality, because when I started to collect art, I was into modern art because of the hype of, modern art, but without attraction to it. Of course, art is the expression of beauty, but behind the scene, so talking like years and years ago, when I started to meet up with these guys in the street and looking at the messages they were putting on walls, graffiti artists, and I was just like, I mean, this is me. This is what I'm projecting. This is exactly what it gets me inside and what I want to transpose to the society. So street art became for me some sort of a passion. And I couldn't stop collecting and buying and having. And I'm super well connected in this industry now because it's been like years and years, like 25 years. So I pretty much know everyone except the one that no one knows. Banksy included.
Okay.
So
all right.
So I'm privileged. I feel privileged to have access to these pieces, and I enjoy them every day. Honestly, every single day when I don't want to go outside for 10 minutes or an hour, or I want to sit down, I'm going to go around my paintings, and I work with my paintings around me because it's inspiration.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
I'll bet we're going to end up talking about what these paintings have to do with the brain. I bet we get there. I bet we get
probably.
there.
So where are you now?
I'm in Santa Monica, California. I'm in a friend's apartment, kindly lent to me for my 3 weeks here instead of the hotel gig. Yeah. So, before I've lived in Thailand now full time, almost 14 years. Before that, Malibu, Santa Monica for 30 years. So it's more, I was, born in Canada. I left in my early 20s. I lived around the world, but I identify mostly as a Southern Californian. I guess if I was to have to frame how I kind of, I don't know, see myself or how I think of myself, I have both Canadian and an American passport. And, you never really forget your birth country and birth culture because you grow up there. I grew up there anyway. But fortunately, I've lived long enough and I've been in enough places that I feel I like the feeling of planet Earth. I like the idea of a planetary citizen.
So much.
Even though there's some places I would prefer not to live on the planet.
But still, even those places, they're packed with human. And, every single human deserves to have some attention, whatever his beliefs are.
Yeah, well, I go beyond the human part. I'd say, all beings being together. I've lived with, Southeast Asian apes. I'm still working with them in rescue conservation work. And, I'm an animal guy. I grew up a farm boy. And I think that I'll say for myself, I won't speak for everybody else, but I've been an incredibly arrogant being most of my life, identifying as a human. And, I'm a human and that's an animal, that's an insect, I think it's gotten in my way of living a more full life. So
that fulfillment requires, well, unfortunately, that fulfillment requires a certain experience and a lifetime life to be understood. The pity of that is, I would dream that we could be born with that feeling and understanding that we're part of this universe, and we can put our arrogance just in the garbage instead of putting garbage on the planet.
Ooh, clever. Did you rehearse that? No, come on.
No,
man.
It was just like you inspired me.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, but you know what? This is funny because my daughter has this kind of unique communication, I would say, superpower with animals since the young age. Like she was at school, she was like with coals, like with the tongue on her face, never scared, and she was always surrounded by those animals, and she still have the same feeling. So maybe some people are more receptive than others.
Well, my daughter and granddaughter are like that times 10. So maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's a rebound from growing, coming into life in an urbanized experience. And there's a natural kind of appetite, a biological, psychological appetite to be a part of the planet, to be a part of I don't know if you know what an animal is, all the others that are walking around here. So maybe it's an appetite, like a reflex appetite, like you grow up on junk food and the first time you encounter real food, it's a big wow and you want more. So maybe we're lucky. Maybe our daughters and granddaughters and sons, maybe they'll be better tuned than us.
Well, definitely they will. Every single generation is better than the previous one. That's one. But maybe we've done a great job as parents as well, because we haven't been educated that way. We haven't paid attention. In our generation, people didn't know what a coal was if you were living in a city and were eating hamburgers. But now these kids, like you said, they're more exposed to information and things like that, and they probably understand it better than we do. Overall, I have faith in this world and planet and humanity.
Okay, my monster brother, here we are. So I have hours open, but we'll do it according to what you do.
You know what? We go with the flow because this is the purpose of my podcast. I like I don't like to be promotional in a way. I like to deep dive into who's the person behind the theory and what are we bringing to the world in a very open-minded thing. So we can talk about art, we can talk about our daughter, we can talk about animals. At the end of the day, it's all related to brains and optimization. So I love it. And I'm not going to cut this part that we spoke before. It's going to be in my podcast.
Okay. All right. Righteous. Very good. Also, I'm quite flexible right now, but I want to know, in your podcast structure, do you have a kind of a frame that you like to work with? So I just kind of know your tempo.
The flow.
Okay.
This is the frame.
Okay.
The flow is the frame. Now, but we're going to start. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, where you are, where you're coming from, who you are, because the best way is when you introduce yourself, it's clear. When somebody introduces you, it always sounds like cheesy and kind of pretentious. So I like to hear people how they feel about themselves, and this is how we're going to start. And after that, you're from subject to topics, we're going to jump to one to the other, and you're going to tell us about what is coming up now. That seems to be fantastic.
Yeah, well, Okay.
All right. Okay.
All right, here we go. My name
Garnet.
is Garnet Dupuis. I'm a Canadian boy, U.S. citizen, lived around the world, and I'm currently living in Thailand, northern Thailand. I'm a mountain rainforest guy. I like at the north. I live in Chiang Mai, a little bit outside of Chiang Mai, and I'm doing my best to be a good person. The definition of success can easily change over time, and mine has, of course. I grew up in a working family. Farmers, factory. I call them the 3 Fs. Everybody I knew was either a farmer, a factory worker, or a fireman. And the fireman was like the top of the professional class that I grew up with. But there was always an itch. I went to university, late 60s, early 70s. Maybe you can guess what I did, which was rarely in class because most of the learning was happening on the streets. At that time, the all the movements, the human potential movement, free speech, anti-war, women's lib, gay rights, segregation, desegregation,
and psychedelics,
and the psychedelics, and also this thing called the pill, which there was so much change going on, and frankly, right to this point, the word just jumped out of my mouth. The thing that interests me most to this very day, and we'll probably talk about it, I hope, is the issue of change. I've been lucky. I've been lucky my whole life, and it's very good to be lucky when you're stupid. So,
come on.
luck has carried me through a lot of experiences, and the major luck is I've been born with, I don't know what to call it anymore, but the sense of the sacred, that there's something special, there's something mysterious. I don't know. Spiritual is like a weird word anymore.
Yeah, intuition to the extreme, maybe.
Something. I was born and raised in a French Roman Catholic family, and the thing that I got out of being in that religion in my early days, I don't consider myself following that construct anymore. But it really gave me this sense of the sacred, and that the sacred had this mysterious quality, and I like that. I like knowing that I don't know, but that there's something that I can know. So, and also it gave me, I guess, a moral structure to life. So I'll give it credit for that the early Catholicism gave me the sense that there is something special about life, and that it is special in a heartfelt and healing level, that it's natural and normal, but there's a kind of a mysterious quality to it. And that mysterious quality, that process of exploration, discovery, like what's mysterious about that piece of art behind you, which I probably will never forget now, by the way.
That's cool.
What is it about art? What is it about, what's this heartfelt appetite that we have? So,
but that's a chase of, if I can just say, it's most of the time we're attracted by art because of we're chasing everything that is related to beauties.
And even
like life,
define beauty, which we probably will, along with humor, along with magic, because we have this interesting thing called a body, and
some more than others.
That has this interesting thing called the brain as an aspect of the body, and so consciousness is I to put a name on it. It's been my nature, or I would not have made it a choice. There would have been a choice to not do it. I've always been interested in consciousness because it seems like every other topic is related to it, and people that seem to be what I'll call more conscious seem to have more access, and people that were less conscious seem to be living in a smaller box. And then over time, I've studied under different I'm a kind of a traditionalist. I'm a boring guy
we are all in certain circumstances.
So I went from Catholicism into psychedelics, and then from psychedelics into a Hindu guru and that world, and then after X number of years working with a Korean Taoist teacher, and then for the past 25 years, although he's passed a few years ago, working with a Tibetan Dzogchen teacher. So these things are real. It's really important for me. I've pursued this over money. I've pursued it over fame. I've pursued it over power. I've done a lot of things that people consider dumb because I would rather work towards that clarity and presence and use it to help other people instead of doing other things. things that can be equally as attractive. So right now, and the thing that, I've looked forward to talking with you, people that are listening or watching, Jean and I have developed I would call it a warm brotherly relationship. We've not sat elbow to elbow, but we've been spending time, and the quality of what I'll call open-mindedness is, even though a lot of people claim it doesn't really exist very often, because we're all protecting our own forts of belief. We armor ourselves so we don't go insane. And the issue that is prominent right now for me in relation to consciousness is the issue of change. How do you get, because our brain is excellent. The neocortex, our new brain, the very human aspect of mammalian brain is super good at harvesting information and integrating it into patterns. And it does that sublimely well. Thank God. When I see Jean doing one of his 19 different lift stands, whatever, I say, oh man, come on. And but I know, because it's a skill. And it's a pattern, and it's been developed neurologically. It's not just muscles. It doesn't matter what we do. Even right now, when I do this with my hand, my brain is lit to do this. And so here we are, this situation. To me, this is the fascination point with I won't talk about mind, brain. I just
it's interesting, because you brought two concepts in our discussion already, and those two concepts could just take hours to be explained one after the other. The first one, consciousness, and the second one, change. So as today in 2023, we're still fighting in between neuroscientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and philosophers to put a definition on this word, and no one seems to know what it is. The quantum energy calculation and models seems to bring some things new in that dimension as well. And you're the first that brings changes at the same time as talking about consciousness. I want to hear more about that, because for me, both are totally linked and related, and they completely depending to each other. So please go ahead.
Well, I like talking about it, Jean, so buckle up.
That's it.
Buckle up. About the brain-mind thing. I'm not an atomist. I'm not a materialist. To me, I'm not going to go too far with this, but it fascinates me that we know scientifically, to the best of our ability, that matter is not material. That, it's atomistic, but we know atoms are primarily 99.9% space, and the electrons are not little marbles flying around a bigger marble. So, the material body, your body and my body, is 99.9% space and is held together by basically a charged force field. So I don't get this where, the brain is physical and the mind is non-physical. As far as I can tell, nothing is physical.
To the extreme.
The short thing, this is not going to go far that way, but I had the very good chance of getting to be with Buckminster Fuller towards the end of his life and actually celebrate his last birthday with him. So I have a kind of a personal affection, but he's just a brilliant man. And to me, he nailed, as a scientific mind, but as a wise mind, he nailed it. He said, I seem to be a verb. That's it just cuts right. Okay, here's a brilliant scientist that his conclusion, I'm not an object. I'm not a thing. There's no noun in my sentence. I'm just pure verb. So, back to the brain. I don't know the brain, the mind. I don't know. All I do know, I can say with confidence, is that by every account, having a good functioning brain is intimately involved with a good functioning mind. That much I can say, because you can see when the brain screws up, what we call the mind doesn't do well. So leave it at that. Okay, the brain. I'm fascinated as I learn more about the brain, because we don't know much about the brain. We're learning more about the brain.
But in the last 25 years, we've learned a lot.
We've learned a lot, which means we've learned a little bit as to what it really is. So this is the thing that I was beginning to say, that our brain, the neocortex, the new brain, is exceptionally good at creating patterns based on integrating information. It's very, very good. And yet we know that, leading brain scientists, the biggest news of the past 10, 12 years, neuroplasticity. that the adult human brain can still change in positive ways. Well, there's the word change. Now, wait a minute. When a brain loves to make patterns and rely and predict on those patterns, at the same time, how do you get that brain to change when the brain resists changing?
Correct.
It's like, well, wait a minute here.
Yeah. And you want it to be functional as well. Yeah.
Well, would you like to keep on learning and growing? Would you like to be adaptive? Well, I think most people say, well, yes, of course. However, our brain loves its existing patterns. Every time, we call them habits, we call them beliefs, right? So to appreciate that inside the brain, your brain, my brain, there is competition. There's ongoing competition. Let me put it this way, an analogy about blood, easier, right? We don't have enough blood in our body to do everything at one time, that the blood has to be allocated metabolically to certain functions and regions. So our blood, there's a kind of a competition for blood inside the body, right? When you start to do the insane things that you do on bars and handstands,
goes to my head, then to my muscle.
You wouldn't eat a real big meal and do that right away because of the allocation of blood. There's going to be a conflict, if not a competition. Our brain has an innate competitive nature for metabolic energy, that patterns, when they're created, use energy to maintain that patterness. And when you want to change the pattern, energy has to be allocated towards that. So my fascination right now is, now put it in different ways, when you need to change, how do you change? How do you unstick a stuck brain? How do you unstick a stuck brain?
Yeah, and that's a dilemma for society. Yeah.
Well, so here you are, you're one of these, cut, fit, maturing men, and, all the stuff that a lot of us could easily aspire to. When it comes to change, because you've had to change.
Yeah, every day.
Right? Every day. When you have to change, because this is what I want to talk about. And I have a lot of, I can unpack a lot of it as we go along, because that's what I do. But I'm curious for you, what have you changed in your life successfully? How did you change it? What things have you, and we might as well get honest, what things you recognize could or should need change, but it's a bitch. It's hard to change, that the change is not there, because we got to be honest, right? I'm not real big on this superhuman thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to normal human.
It's already a challenge and a struggle for many. But
so
I think that, when you want to create change and to create those new patterns and pathways, the most important thing is to be able to engage the proper part of your brain at the right moment. This is probably something that was decoded along the time I was working out and training. And it took me a while to understand that before you start trying to change anything, you need to be aligned on that. You need to be prepped or primed. And so if you don't prime your brain and you jump straight to trying to achieve something new, you would never make it. It will never happen. It will never work. And you're going to spend hours and hours like all these guys out there saying, I'm not capable of doing that, and I'm trying and I'm forcing, but they're not forcing, they're not doing the right thing. So understanding your brain, how it works, I think the neocortex is definitely, and the temporal lobes are the part that need to be really aligned, but you need to be in this phase of flow state that is there is a line there, but the flow state plays a role in learning a lot and changing pathways.
Okay. All these are like big time, big fat hot words for me when you say engage, because I call what I do brain engagement. And when you talk about prime, when you talk about all these things, I light up because I get it. Like I believe I'm getting it. But it's not even pretend. Let's make sure we just don't use code words that let us slip by the real juice. Like, what does it mean to engage? What does it mean to prime? Well, what does that, because the tech that I work in, obviously, and what I do, and this is the target zone. This is the shit that allows other things to happen. And I'm very intrigued and attracted to the top 1% 1% of 1%. I'll say a person like you. And that's a positive thing. No, because, you have advantages for whatever good reasons, because you've earned them, to have access to certain things, a degree of health, a degree of, financial independence, all these things that, frankly, most people don't have that liberty. And it's not like it fell in your lap. I know that you've made yourself completely who you are. I dearly respect that, my friend.
Thank you.
You're not representative of most people. You're a leader. You're on the cusp. And most people will never get to where you are, and yet they still need what you experience and learn. And this is the passion for me. I spent much of my years teaching, and a huge thing happened at not a certain date, but in a period of time when I realized that people were not coming to me to experience my teaching. I thought they were. And then, probably arrogance, then the realization was no. They were coming there to experience their learning, not my teaching. And I was putting my attention on my teaching. I was making it so that people had to come to me to experience my teaching. And I thought that is a stupid mistake. I want to turn it around. I want to go into their learning. I want to be with them with they learn, because if I teach and they walk away with 10%, that's
which
a failure.
Would be,
That's a failure. But if I can get into if by joining their learning, maybe I don't teach everything I know, but if they walk away with 40%, 50% more learning, that's a success. So this is what I want to ask of you, because this is the things that, I can talk about. This is what I'm trying to do. I want to know from the inside out the things that work for you. And maybe you thought maybe you're interviewing me. Maybe I'll interview you.
That's interesting. I was not expecting that, but I love it because
from the inside out, because this whole podcast thing and the whole biohackers thing.
It's always the same talk and
same old. But the fact is that there are things that we can do, things we can't do, and that's true for all of us. And to know how you change, but also the things that make it difficult for you to change, is the real learning.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Then I'll talk about me too. I'll tell you some stupid ass stories about me. Okay.
Well, this is actually very interesting, because my whole life I've been struggling with I would say the non-ability to retain information, because I was all over the place and was suffering ADD, ADHD. I couldn't focus on learning, and I was just but I was absorbing information all the time. When I started to put some sort of, I would call it being recentered. You cannot open a door with a key that is big like that and the lock is small. So you have to go step by step, and you have to understand how you're going to get there. And there is no shortcut. You have to go through that door, open the door. For example, how do I do that? So first, I look at the door and I'm trying to understand the whole concept of it. Those are information that need to be processed in your brain. Those are information, the environment have to be processed in your brain to understand how you, as a human or superhuman or whatever you want to call it, will fit into that to get to that performance into sport or into any type of learning. So this is already putting your brain in a certain perspective, in a certain alignment of I'm opening up ports and I leave the flow coming into me and I understand what is going on. Now I want to get there. How do I get there? I need to...
that's the thing.
Yeah.
How? What? People can know what, but they don't know how.
Yeah. And to get there, it requires you to have your brain and your mind completely dedicated to what you are doing. And most of the time, if I take what you just said, I believe that people want to do that or want to get there, but they don't have the ability to put their mind completely aligned on the mission they have set for themselves. So those kind of artists in dilettante job, I'm doing it like that, but you're not dedicated to your task. And I believe and this is like really an introspection from the guy that was ADD all the time, like all over the place with thousands of ideas and concepts and things flowing to my mind. Now I still have these things coming, but I process one after the other by sequences. So I've turned this overwhelming influx of information coming to my mind into a superpower where I'm able to connect the dot from one to the other that is coming. And this is how I can dedicate my mind and say, okay, those are the information coming up. This is where I'm going. Now, the only things that counts is this space of energy that I am made of. And this space, this empty space of energy that I'm made of has to be dedicated to these things. Of course, you don't achieve it the first time 100%. But every time you do it, you learn just a bit more. And you have to understand that what you do has to be processed in your brain. And from the process, the second process, you go to the third, you go to the fourth, and step by step, you go to achieve certain performances. But I truly believe that people that want to achieve anything in life, it's not sport only, but even learning something very complex or mathematics or whatever, you have to put distance on everything else that could interfere with what you're doing now. When you get that concept, and this is what I was calling priming your brain, when you get that concept, you get to the point that you can achieve this. Now, and then I don't want to talk anymore. It's your turn, but
it's okay. We've got time. Believe me, I'm like locked and loaded right now. Just keep going.
So when I started to work out, and I was always like trying, and I've been this guy that was attracted by like power of drugs and pills and stuff like that before, but not anymore. I think that natural power is way more powerful. But when I started to do workouts, I was using transcranial direct stimulation, small electrical signal to stimulate my brain. And I was just like naturally feeling that this is like making some things in my brain. This is helping me to get into that flow state. And then from there, I tried other techniques, infrared stimulation of brain, until I discovered yours, light and sound. And before, you remember, we spoke about it. I was using binaural sounds only. And I remember one sentence you said you said, what the fuck, binaural sounds? What? And I go like, well, I don't know, but that worked for a certain time. And then you said sound and light, try it. And when I jumped into using sound and light, and you're optimizing with the Neurovisor what the nature is giving us. In a way, because the light and sound, I was living at my cottage, light and sound, I was getting them from the natural environment, the sun, and you can open your eyes and things like that. Of course, not in the same pattern as you do. So what you're bringing now is probably a secret potion or a shortcut to everything I was trying to do by my own.
Okay. That's cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. When you're talking about what you talked about, it strikes me that there's a secret that is like obvious. Sometimes these things are hidden in plain sight, that I think it would be easy for a person to listen to what you said, and the words are tricky, right? That they think or they imagine that this whole thing that you described, the ADHD and the thing, and that it is purely mental. It's a completely a thought process. And I bet that the secret here, hidden in plain sight, is that the brain is physical, the body is physical, and that the more physical the process is, the better it works. Meaning, you have a body, engage, use your body, make these things physical, because the physical is a glorious bottom-up stream of useful information.
Back and forth.
And that if you sit there frozen like a cement block and try to do this whole thing with mental processes, that it won't work, number one. Number two, you'll probably give yourself a headache. Number three, you might go nuts, right? So tell me the same story again without all of these coded words, and bring in, what does it mean for you to be brought into the present with your body and use what you sense in real time to change your mind?
I mean, getting in that flow state and
you talked about flow state, you talked about engage, you talked about priming.
And
I'm afraid, not really afraid, afraid, but I'm guessing that it could be easily misinterpreted as purely a mental, psychological process. And then once you get your head working right, then everything else follows.
No.
I think that your magic is that this experience moved from the mental, psychological ADHD world into the fact that you have a body, you are a body, you are physical, and you can have direct, non-conceptual, real experience. And that, Stanislav Grof, amazing pioneer, he says, the only way to have an experience is to experience the experience.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? So my guess is that a lot of what has helped you could say, is raw, in the moment, physical experience. Now, I don't know if that's true. Is that true? And let's talk about that. The same thing you said before, but let's talk about it from the bottom up instead of the top down.
Well, everything is like back and forth. You come from the mind to the body and from the body back to the mind. So to the brain, it's all electrochemical. And I think that the perception of your own body is probably the first step that needs to be mastered if you want to perform. Like many people would say that, I don't know if my heart is going too fast or too low, except in extreme cases, but I don't know what my breathing is. I don't know. I'm not able to contract that muscle just by thinking about it. So all these small pieces of the puzzle that you are brought together are probably the key factor to the communication back and forth from the brain to the body and the body to the brain. Some sort of natural biofeedback. Okay, let's call it that way.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to let you off the hot seat here. I'm going to squeeze this lemon for all the juice.
I love it. Because it puts me back in. How did I get started into that? And I think it was like a mix of in between like challenges to prove to yourself that there is no limit to what you can do. And then maybe the reward pattern triggered in a way that you accomplish some stuff and you get happy and you get like those dopamine receptors activated. And
this is like, it's like binaural beats. If I hear dopamine anymore, it's getting a little bit warm.
We're getting some. I'm getting some right now.
See, this is the thing. Like this, it is a compliment, but I'm not saying it to make it a compliment. You are able to make advancing, beneficial, ongoing adaptive changes with your body. And it's stupid to think your brain is not your body. I mean, that's the first thing. Even to say body and mind, like you're making a problem that doesn't exist. Let's just call it you, right?
Exactly. And we're empty. So we call it you. And we're empty. We're just vacuum.
So, I'm going to go back to a position I said earlier. I'm not that interested in superhuman because most people will never be human. They superhuman. They're wanting to have a better life, a better experience. And, you can look at Rihanna or something like that, but, 99.999% of any performer singer will never be Rihanna. And yet there is something that motivates them when they see Rihanna. But, what do they want? They want more of what's good in their life. They want to be able to change in positive ways so their life gets better and better, and their family is better, and their kids are better. And for a lot of folks, that's not easy. They don't have the time. They don't have the money. So what I want to do, because this is my perspective, I don't know. Yeah, it's become my perspective. It's not always been, is let's look at our idols, but understand that these idols are also real people. They have real struggles, that they go through a lot of the same problems. I was with a fellow the other day. I'll skip all the details. He had everything and his life was miserable. And then other things happened and it's changed his point of view. So to the average person, or maybe even because the average person does suffer quite a lot. They have stress, they seek goals, they have limitations, they get sick, whatever. Like what's the best advice? I didn't expect this, conversation.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's very cool.
I
love it. I love it.
I want to help people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a normal guy and I need help, right? So you're like, what's the best advice for a person that doesn't have, the privileged access that they wish they had? Maybe they will have it, but they don't have it in their life, right?
Hey, that's a very, very simple one. I'm going to be straightforward and cut the crap. Stop.
Say that again?
I'm going to be straight to the point.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop having idols.
Okay.
That's one. Never had any idol.
Why?
I've never had any idols in my life. I think that the idols that I wanted to have was myself projected in the spot I was looking at.
Okay.
And this is the drive that took me where I am today, because I don't give a damn comparing myself to the top or to others. Okay. I compare myself to myself, and not like the quote that I'm comparing myself to myself of yesterday. I don't. That also.
Hey, but what about? Do you? Is there an idolized genre? Do you idolize some kind of? Like, can a person self-idolize? Like, oh, I'm like this, but I'm going to be like that. No. And maybe it's not Rihanna, but it's their own idol.
No, because I'm in a state of fulfillment. Okay. Completely zen and really in a state where I'm accomplished today. I'm happy. I'm in peace. Before, if that question was asked to me before, I would say yes. I would project myself in a way that, I'd like to be that genre in the future. And it's not money driven or whatever. It's like being where I am today, in control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And for some reason, I'm well. Because I know.
I love it.
No. I mean, this is, I love. I don't know. I'll call it deep and honest. We could have a bullshit average kind of, podcast conversation. It's like a yawner, right? Yeah. And I know with you that I won't say that you would take the bait, but that you could not resist like honesty. So I'm just going to lean right in here, right? You think I'm going to talk about all my stuff? I'm going to get John to talk about his stuff. Because again, then how do you get? Okay, I'll say something that I believe to be true about the brain. Okay, and I'll try to make it short and not weird and complicated. That we have an old brain, we have a new brain. The brain has been evolutionarily developing, and the brain grew from the bottom up. Spinal cord, lower brain, brainstem. We call it the neocortex because it's pretty new on the scene, relatively speaking, and that this old brain still works completely well, absolutely well, and basically it feeds information bottom up into the system. We'll call it the senses, just to call it something, but it's also internal, like it's interoception, neuroception, so it's just not outside perception. And then we have this new brain that feasts on this information that is quite disordered. It is full of possibility, but like, where is the signal in this noise? And that's what the new brain does. It integrates and organizes. So you have this integrated organizer. It's a pattern making machine. Yeah, and a
classifier. Yeah.
And so here we have these two, and they work all the time. And thank God. It fascinates me that what we'll call top down, the neocortex, the integrator, lives in reference to the past and projects into an expected future. That's what it does, right? The old brain, the bottom up, only experiences the present. It's just the moment of experience is the only thing it can do. So, we've got, and maybe you have to be careful because it can sound like a new age psychology twist here, but it's true that the top-down organizer, the pattern maker, lives in the past and projects to the future. It has no ability to experience present moment. The present moment is in this old brain upflow. And then, of course, I'll call it the middle. It's not really the middle. There's this weird emotional thing, the amygdala and hippocampus, where you've got a security guard that, bad stuff that has happened in the past is coded, and that security guard is informed anytime anybody approaches, wearing a red sweater and carrying a gun, because you had that problem in the past. Like, hit the threat alert, right?
Yeah.
So we've got this like beautiful new age hippie, flow of information happening right now. Then we've got this top-down supervisor that is saying, what happened in the past? What can I do in the future? Our neocortex is always jumping to conclusions.
Right.
That's the only thing it can do. It makes a prediction.
And then I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure. You're getting
I have my cat.
Hold up a puppet.
My cat.
That would be good. That would be good, Sean. Yeah. For your podcast, you should have a puppet, right? That's like the alter ego.
Yeah, here they are. So
do it. Yeah. I'm gonna buy you a puppet, a hand puppet. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Would you think that the best state would be like we hear most of the time, or being in this middle line of the sense of presence and not paying attention to the past and the future anymore? Is that related to any processes or optimization of the neocortex?
Yes, and this comes back to the issue of what I call competition. That, at its worst, it's live or die competition. At its best, it's optimized cooperation. I think most of us experience it as a bloodbath competition. I think that there's a lot of tension and stress relating to being present, being now, but at the same time having this big mouth, highly biased critic always giving you information as to what you should feel, what you should say, what you should do. It's very difficult to have the bottom up and the top down kind of flow and dance together. One of the best bits of advice is don't believe everything you think. Just because you're thinking it doesn't make it correct.
Most of the time it's not, actually.
Yeah. So, this top-down zone, which is massively important, has a very, very, very strong confirmation bias. It wants my and you and everybody, even this doll behind you, like the weird eyes, right? It's like, come on, man, you gotta blur it or do something. But anyway, that we want our version of reality to be correct.
Right.
We want that.
Yeah.
Because like when you're going to stick a handstand, you want your sense of gravity. You want that to be accurate.
Yeah.
You want that. But guess what?
Doesn't come for free.
The handstand, right? But guess what? There are a lot of things that we believe, we're habituated, we're patterned to perceive in a certain way that are incorrect. That's the fact. That in the adult, that's why adaptive change is so important. That's why positive neuroplastic change is possible.
Yeah.
However, it's going to resist reliably, predictably, it's going to resist old habits. Yeah. So this is my game right now is like, how do you get a brain to change that resists change? Neurologically, it's the tension between stability and elasticity. You want enough stability to retain good patterns, but enough elasticity to change when those patterns don't work. And how to do that is what I spend my days working with. How to stick an unstuck brain, how to get a brain to behave differently in the present because it won't let go of the past or it's too interested in the future. That's what I think about.
And question for you.
Sure.
So those two concepts that we now understand clearly on your mission, I'm adding a third concept. You make sure that what is good stays, because you want to get rid of what is not good. You want to create new thing. But in between of everything, there's good stuff as well. How do you make sure that they're not getting erased, if we can say?
Yeah. Well, life never stops being a process of trial and error. We have to be careful to not be so certain that a particular belief that we have, I'll say belief, habit, you call it different things depending on whether it's psychological or right, that thing, right, that habit, it may have been excellent in the past. It's not like it was always wrong, but now things have changed. So even something that was good is not so good now. Because almost everything we do in the beginning is for a good reason. Every bad, stupid ass thing we do was because we were trying to solve a problem. Right. And maybe we didn't make the right choice, but it was motivated by survival. We don't want to get hurt. So it's this thing that, how does a person know, and you just said it, how does a person know when change is necessary? And if you know it because you're getting feedback that it's not working, how can you let go of that pressure subconscious habit, how can you modify it to make a new, better habit? To me, this is the razor's edge.
Yeah, the adaptability there. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, that's the point, you know. It's many people try to get rid of bad habits, and in the process of doing that, they actually get rid of many other things that could be necessary for just being in the moment, in balance with yourself. And then you want to create new stuff. I'm a fanatic of change for sure.
Really?
I think that, yeah.
Why? Why would you be a
why?
fanatic for change?
Well, because I
Even
think
you don't want to even changing the good things. How do you know?
I think that I want to change everything if I could change it, because there is always place for improvement on everything, and nothing is steady in our lives. So why wouldn't you change something that is meant to be changed in the process of your entire life? Like,
well, I can tell you why. Because of fear.
Yeah,
fear.
How do you judge? Okay, fears. Let's get into that.
Yes,
what creates fears?
Usually, without getting like all Jungian about it, something bad happened, and you don't want that bad thing to happen again. You know, right now, a topic that is everywhere for many reasons, most of them very good reasons, is PTSD, right? Where something happened that was bad, and that bad thing hurt you enough that you don't want that again. And that, that amygdala-based response is now very fine-tuned, and anything that even reminds you acts as a trigger. And it's not because you think about it, your body freezes. It's a physiological, like the full-on brake and the handbrake goes on, and you're stuck. You're stuck with that. Like, and how do you unstick a process that is actually felt as necessary for survival?
Well,
like, that's a biggie.
That's a big.
That's not just a bad habit.
No, that's a big one. I think that it's a bit like in the brain of teenagers. Not having that frontal cortex developed enough to understand completely that it was something like threatening to a point, and just like, you're scared, but okay, it was once like that. I believe that everybody is different, but if I go in my brain, I think that nothing on this planet, whatever it is, can be reproduced twice, exactly the same. So if you start with that principle, I had cars accidents. I fell on snowmobile. I had a bone broken, and I stayed 10 days with a broken bone. But I'm still doing skydiving or snowmobile and things like that. It's just because those things that create fear, I believe that they cannot be reproduced twice. They will not repeat. It's like printed in my brain that way. And so...
Okay, I want to say something right now, just in case for whoever's listening. I'm not a PTSD specialist. You're not a PTSD specialist. So, what I'm wanting to, this is the honesty right now that to me is the magnetism of why I even talk to you, is to look at these things again, strip it down to what I'll call the common person, the average person, and knowing that things are the way they are, and the kind of the baby steps, even the shift in perspective, the idea that, I say sometimes, and I believe it's true, that whatever the state of your brain today, it can be better tomorrow. Right. I'm not going to say it's going to be Superman's brain, but it can be better. It can be better. And pardon the pun, my sticking point right now in the work that I do, which I take seriously, which I also enjoy and it's fun, is how knowing that change is necessary, and knowing that for different reasons, change is not easy for most people. How can we work with that? And I'll give you the hint, is I think that we will have much more success with including more bottom-up, sensory, real-time, physical involvement, because we live in a culture that tends to psychologize everything. Think your way out of it, think and get rich, all these things. That one of the best things you can do for your brain is physical activity.
Right.
However, like, why is that so goddamn hard for not you? You're a monster. For most people to change that, because the body, I don't like it. Yeah, I know it's good for me.
Yeah.
I hate it. You know, this issue, because I have opinions, by the way. Maybe this whole thing is set up for my opinions, but
probably.
Not actually, well, maybe a little bit, but but to me, that this is the issue. You know, we live in changing times. I mean, look at the past couple of years with COVID. Like, whoever thought that changed? I'm not going to say aliens did it or some guy in Switzerland. Forget that, right? But you know, it was a tremendous stress and huge social and economic change, and it pushed a lot of people into places that they never thought they'd have to go.
Correct.
So recognizing that the brain, the new brain, has a fantastic job in figuring things out, integrating them into beliefs and habits and patterns, and those are great. Sometimes those are incorrect, but you did your best. Sometimes they were correct, but now you got to change. And how to navigate that process, because, and I'll use like a simple term, that the neurology is kind of glued, not really, but it's kind of glued into certain almost reflexive patterns. You know, with a habit, every time you do something once, the next time is a little easier because of your running neural pathways. So how you know, because people have big things happen where they have to change really quickly. Most of us have to change, but slowly and repetitively and phasically. So I'll ask it this way: I won't say you, but you can say a friend, right? How can a person begin to soften the glue of a stuck pattern that they know they have to change, but effort alone is not doing it? Right? Stress is not, like, how do you soften the glue of something that is stuck that needs to change? How do you do that?
I have a friend and he's a cyborg and is using technology to do that. And I think that, you know, this is the principle of it. There's so much or so little that you can do by yourself. If you're stuck in that way, and I understand clearly the pattern, you have certain limitation in a way. And today, science opens door to explain that vibration, frequencies, light, sound can modify the pattern or composition of neurochemicals and how they diffuse, and in general can modify the structure of your brain. So I think, like my friend the cyborg does, using those technology to improve or to correct in certain cases that
that's how he softens the glue. I mean, because there's more than softening the glue. You got to soften the glue before you can make a change.
Right? Absolutely. And I think that's how you do it. You could do meditation. The result could be different, and it takes a certain dedication and struggle and understanding of the principle. You can take a couple of center techniques to understand yourself. But I think in the world of today, where we live, with the coming of ChatGPT and all these things and artificial intelligence, that is beautiful. I'm a fan of those technology. I think that those technology will help us to become better humans.
This is a game, right? You know, I work with technology, obviously.
I know,
but
this is
technology.
It.
And
it is.
You know what? I have a term. It's not my own term. Well, I don't know where it came from, but I call it biophilic technology. Biophilia, love, right? It's not biophobic technology. It's biophilic technology. And I think part of it depends on attitude about technology. Part of it depends on the actual design of that technology. Because some technology will fuck you up. We know that.
That's what I was bringing up before when I said, like, how do you make sure that when you reorganize the setup of your brain, you're not erasing the wrong part, or you're not modifying the wrong part. So I'm with you 100%. Some technology will just screw up your brain in a way that you're not going to be constructive, but destructive.
Well, even what constitutes technology, you know, I don't know, there's all lot of talk these days about shamanism, and I have to be careful because some of my opinions are not so positive. Some are, by the way, but there's a lot of what I call, neo-shamana wannabeism. And but when you look at, okay, forget about, I had to say that. That's probably
yeah, I love it.
Anyway.
Wait, because you have this concept of new shamanism.
Wannabe?
Yeah, wannabe, and I have the same concept for these pseudo scientists that are preaching on social media stuff that are like, I want to be as
Okay, I got one for you. I've really, especially into the biohacker community, like with people that have things like Biohackers Magazine, just as an example, right? I mean, off the top of my head, right? I have this. This is not what biohackers are, but this is what biohackers can be, right? I think it's funny, so it's not meant to be insulting, right? That to me sometimes the whole okay, I'll say the biohackers thing is like social media enabled, technologically advanced narcissism. Right?
So that's a deep definition that sticks very well, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, I almost forget what we're talking about, the biophilic technology. But in the shaman, a piece of bent wood with an animal hide, a drum, that's technology, right? That's technology. Boom. But because it's not just, even you could say the voice is a kind of technology, right? An organic technology, but the drum is technology, the horn, whatever these things, that I think we have to be cautious to lump technology into one category, a lot of like electricity and digital stuff, where there have always been tools. There have always been tools.
Right.
So using tools, I think right now that many of and I've practiced these, my whole life. I'm older than you, right? And I've practiced this from an early age. And I have a very high and strong and proven respect for traditional spiritual practices. Almost everybody now is not in a situation to be able to practice them. We don't have the time. We're too urbanized. There's too much, the culture, the psychogenic stress, the belief systems, materialism, all these things make it almost impossible to spend the amount of time to even get benefit, let alone high levels of reward. It takes, so I do think it's a kind of an emergency situation in my mind, that when you're in an emergency, it may not be optimum, but it can save your ass. So it's great. Right now, the technological advancements are helping us to cross bridges that otherwise we couldn't cross the river. That right now there are good things and not good things that are happening. And right now, the skill set is to recognize what those could be. There's going to be risk. We'll make mistakes. That's what happens. But no risk, no reward. I really believe this. I have, here's a fundamental premise that I have, that I'll call it old brain, new brain. Again, I mean, it's more, a lot more than that, but that this old brain is a beautiful, disordered, entropic realm of sensory experience. That's what it does. And the new brain, as we've already said, takes that and organizes it and kind of, makes it into something that is more relatable, more predictable. Just because certain states are uncommon doesn't make them abnormal.
Right.
Just because states are uncommon doesn't make them abnormal. And the quality and the state that can be generated using certain psychedelic compounds, to me, points towards that truth. See, I don't believe the psychedelic compound creates a psychedelic experience. I think the psychedelic compound accesses an aspect of the brain that is like that.
Yeah.
And that many things will get you. I always use the same analogy. If I've heard the podcast before, excuse me. If you order something online, do you really care whether it's FedEx or DHL that brings it to your door? As long as you get what you wanted in your order.
Exactly.
So the FedEx, the DHL, those are agents for an endpoint action. Now, because of the physical things that you do, some of them considered extreme, that there are access avenues into what we'll call altered states of mind, or non-ordinary consciousness, or the psychedelic state, whatever it is. It can happen in all sorts of ways, physically, orgasmically, sexually. There are all these different ways, fasting, extreme exertion, even certain pathologies. So premise number one, I believe that the human brain has this natural innate capacity, and that it is not only possible, it's important that we spend time there, however you get there. For one thing, we do it every 24 hours in the circadian cycle.
Yeah.
We go, and I don't mean this negatively, we go crazy every day.
Yeah.
Hypnagogic, hypnopompic, dream states, right? We need this. We need to have this access to unfiltered information. We need to have the ability to let emotions unravel and unknot into resolution. This is a healthy brain. Using entropic brain theory, Robin Carhart Harris, right? Imperial College, entropic brain. Most of the time we're in secondary consciousness, like we are right now, for the most part, right? And that's when we keep our shit together.
Yeah.
But then periodically we need to, by degree, not absolutely like 100%, but we need to kind of let go of that, become, I won't say crazy, but less rational, more open-minded, right? Like in the art forms. I mean, these things are not purely rational constructs. There's a lot of, hey, what about this that happens?
And interpretation is like personal too. Yeah.
So this is the point that I'm driving at. And I'm going to use an acronym that I think you're aware of. Carl Friston put it together working with Carhart Harris. The acronym is REBUS, REBUS, like a bus you ride in with a REBUS. And the acronym stands for Relaxing Existing Beliefs Using Psychedelics. Now it's an S, so it's like PS. Okay, so I'm not saying that I'm pro-psychedelics or anti-psychedelics. To me, that's not the point. That I would say REBUS is relaxing existing beliefs using something. And that something has the ability to soften the glue. According to the acronym, it relaxes existing beliefs. It doesn't change the beliefs. It just relaxes them enough that they're open for interpretation. They're open for consideration. They're open to new influences. That it's a brain priming process, to use your earlier remark. That the way to prime the brain for change is, first of all, to recognize that there's something that's there and wants to stay that way, and that there's something else that you would like it to be, and that there's a transition. Another analogy, then you can talk.
No. I just want, before you go to the second analogy, to define the word of psychedelic, because most of the time people think that psychedelic are mushrooms or substances, but I just want to clarify that when you speak about psychedelics, it's more a state of mind, right?
Yes. So it's literally, I mean, from the Greek, psychedelic mind manifesting.
Okay, perfect.
And you can use certain chemical compounds to trigger certain brain reactions. You can also use, and there's quite a long list. Maybe they're not as quick acting for every person, but there's quite a long list of other agents. Let's say that the psychedelic mushroom or acid or ayahuasca, that's FedEx. Okay. But then there's also DHL, there's UPS, there's the postal system, there's Grab, there's
Uber.
Right? There are all of these things that, I'll repeat it, just because a certain brain state, mind state, just because a certain state is uncommon, doesn't mean it's abnormal.
Right.
Even if you look at the cultural level, cultures need to go crazy once or twice a year. You've got Mardi Gras, you've got Carnival, you've got Halloween, right? In current cultures. Why? Because it takes the pressure off. That to be irrational, to be illogical, doesn't mean to be stupid dumbass. It means that you're open to free new ideas, that you're willing to look at art that you never looked at before and say, this shit is great. I've been listening, because of the work I do, I've been listening to more and more free jazz movement, the African free jazz movement in the early 70s, late 60s. And if you're expecting, a certain kind of music, you're going to hate it because it isn't that. But if you're open to, listen, I'm not going to try to find the normal musicality in here that I predicted. I'm just going to be open to the summary sound experience. It's a summary experience. Instead of trying to follow it in a linear way, I'm going to let this thing just go non-linear. I'm just going to let it happen and let me feel, instead of thinking and predicting, I'm just going to feel the sum of this. And whether it's off pitch or atonal or loses rhythm, guess what? That's okay. So rebus is a guiding principle in my mind, in theory, not because of the use of psychedelics, but if that's your thing, that's your thing, full dose, microdose ceremony, whatever. be cool. However, relax existing beliefs using something that works for you so that you can judiciously take that hero's journey of leaving where you normally see reality and exploring new possibilities, seeing if there's something precious. If there's something precious, hold it in your heart, bring it back into your normal life and share it with others. I mean, that's the classic Joseph Campbell hero's journey. And for me, it was like last year, I was sitting, because I like you, I do a lot of research, and it struck me that the hero's journey is the proto-myth because it follows proto-neurology of proto-consciousness. Every neuroplastic change, positive neuroplastic change, is the hero's journey. Change is heroic.
Like that, yeah.
Change is heroic.
It is. I think it is. Yeah.
So you talk.
No, but
I think you're getting some of your Florida sunshine coming in the window there.
Yeah, the sun in my face, actually.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Rebus, how do you relax existing beliefs using fill in the blank, something that it's like, okay, I can feel it, I can taste it, I know it's there, I'm kind of stuck where I am, I want to unstick it. When it gets unstuck, then it's going to be easier. How do you relax existing beliefs? And I don't mean beliefs just psychologically, patterns, whatever you want to call it, behaviors. How do you do it? How do you do it?
It's an interesting question. I think that in my sense, to get to that interpretation, it takes first to be conscious of those things.
Yeah.
So you have to know, you have to be conscious of them existing.
I'm not sure what that means. Do you feel it? Like,
yeah.
Can you point to a place in your body where that happens?
No. But you have to know and to acknowledge that they exist.
How do you know that?
That's a tough question, actually.
Yeah. Well, this is the important shit, right? Yeah. How do you know?
Well, how do you know that you cross the path of someone in the street? How do you know that that person is not good for you? Mm-hmm. It's some sort of sensing the energy.
And can you show me, where do you sense it? Is it like everywhere?
No, I think it's probably everywhere because it's like an overall feeling that...
Because when you have an emotion, you can point to where you feel it, right?
Exactly, yeah. But
so it's like something to do with your body.
But I think that, it's a bit deeper than that. Some days you could literally feel certain things harder or stronger than other days. Sure. And I think that some days we're more receptive to others. But when you have that, when you exert and you practice that capability of sensing those, I'm going to call them feeling or energies.
Sure. Okay, feelings.
Okay. Cool. And so when you have the capability of making sure you understand that you are getting energies or feelings, and then I'm going to make a shortcut there. It's all conscious, okay? So if you take that conscious bag and you leave it, just leave it on the side. You don't have it anymore.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Yeah.
Then you can start from new. Then you can create something that changes the pattern.
Okay. Well, all right. A couple of things come to my mind. Neuroplasticity. So let's pull it back in a little bit. There are, three kind of bumper stickers that most people, two that they hear about, and one maybe not so much. One obviously is use it or lose it. That's an old one that was even before neuroplasticity. It's like makes sense. The other is fire it to wire it. Okay, that's cool. The thing that intrigues me the most is the third one, is that the brain changes what matters. The brain changes what matters. It's like, wow, what does that mean? Like, what happens at the brain? We don't even know what matters. Like, it's not like,
but it's general. Yeah, but
what is it? What matters?
It could be negative or positive. What matters?
What do pain and pleasure have in common, right? What do pain and pleasure have in common? Because to me, it's a backward answer to the question we just asked about what matters.
They have in common probably the same type of neurotransmitters going one way or the other.
Because I'm not as smart as you, right? Right now, if I took, this is an imagine. I always use the same one. Right now, if I took like an ice pick, or people even know what that is. If I took a sharp knife and I jammed it several times into your left knee, right?
I'm going to respond.
And I don't know how this happens, but suddenly in your left knee, you have this really intense, incredibly pleasant orgasm in your left knee. What do the dagger and the knee orgasm have in common?
they're generating pain and pleasure at the
okay, I'll make it more simple.
Yes, go. Otherwise, because I would ask you, why don't you go on my second knee then?
With the knife?
Yeah.
Okay. The answer to my stupid question is your attention goes to your left knee.
Yeah.
So, like, how does the brain know what matters? Because something happens that draws your attention.
Like you were saying with your hands before.
Yeah, attention. And even like, what is attention? That thing, attention without tension, because you don't have to make your attention go to your left knee when the knife goes there, or when you have the orgasm in your knee, right? Something happens that requires this thing called attention. And in neuroplastic methodology, regardless of the version of method, there are 3 things you have to have, and a 4th one that is secret sauce. And this is formulaic. If you have these 3 things plus secret sauce, the method is going to work. The first thing is sustained attention. That's the first thing. If there's no sustained attention, the mystery of attention, then the method won't work. I'll talk a little bit about attention more. Examples from biofeedback. The second thing for neuroplastic change is marginal demand. Just over the line, not like crazy demand, but just marginal demand. Focused attention, marginal demand. And the third thing can be a real bitch. It's called different things, faith or belief or something like
dedication, or willing.
All of that. Because if that's not square, there won't be compliance, right? That you say, I'm doing this thing because my wife is going to, like, if I don't do this, I can't go home. So I'm going to do this, right? That's not the belief or the faith or the buy-in or whatever you want to call it. You've got to have those 3 things. If you do those 3 things, that method is going to trigger neuroplastic change. But that's the way it works.
Yeah, and those 3 things are actually the definition of the flow state.
Well, hello. So what's the secret sauce? The 4th one. If you've got the secret sauce, these 3 work exponentially better. Okay? No. It's a very complex neurochemical state. It's called enjoy.
Not the reward, but enjoy.
Enjoy. If you enjoy what that is, the 1, 2, 3, those things work exponentially better. So this issue of engaging neuroplastic change, if we look at these things, then we can better understand, I think, because there are 2 motivators. You know this, right? There's this indifferent state in the middle where it's like you're just stuck. How do you get unstuck? Well, there are 2 ways of doing it, generally speaking. One is pain, the other is pleasure. The pain makes you not want to do it, and the pleasure makes you want to do the change. So when we look at everything like that, if something is uncomfortable, you don't want to do it. So that means you want to get out of the old habit because it's painful. But it's very difficult to get pushed into the new habit if it's still pain that's pushing you. If there's relief, if there's pleasure, if there's reward, if there's a dopamine hit, right, then you've got these 2 things that normally work against each other working positively. You want to get out of the bad pattern, the bad thought. Why? Because it hurts you. It's painful. However, if your belief is so strong that that's correct, you'll try to interpret that pain in a positive way, and you will twist your head around. In predictive coding theory, there are these things called priors, right? The set of patterns that you have. And some prior like before, right? Because it happened before. Some priors are labeled as being reliable priors. Some are unreliable priors. So if your prior, if your belief, if your pattern, if the way that you swing a golf club, if you believe like this is ordained to be correct, even though I suffer because of it, as a reliable prior, I'm not going to accept new information. I'm going to deny information that is saying prediction error, prediction error, prediction error. I know it's not working, and I know I'm suffering. That's clear, but I do not accept that feedback. I do not accept it because that belief is true. That's a real dangerous capacity of top-down neocortex. It's where you refuse the truth. Margaret Mead, very famous anthropologist from last century, she was pretty much aware of a lot of things. She was brilliant. And there's a thing that she was presented with certain information from her research, and she said, this is the kind of proof that that I wouldn't believe, even if it was true.
Yeah, but that's perfect.
Right? And like, there we are. However, okay, the power of habit.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a short story, personal. Living in a condo, upstairs, downstairs, long time, married with a wife. And I gave up professional offices. That's too much. So I had 2 treatment rooms in the condo, one downstairs for like multiple modalities and body work, and upstairs biofeedback, homeopathy, these things. Okay. And I was busy. I kind of lived on the clock, and in between each session, I'd go into the kitchen and wash my hands, kind of like, change my head, and above the stove on the kitchen cabinet, there was a clock, and I'd look up at the clock. I'm a Virgo, right? I'm on time. Right. And I did that same place for 20 years.
That's
20 years. Right. Okay. Then along comes change in my life. There's divorce. And my lovely wife and I decide that, okay, and she moves out because I was there in the condo and the whole thing with the offices. And I say, well, okay, whatever you want, take it. I mean, it's just stuff, right? Right. So she took stuff, which is like fine. For some reason, which still eludes me, she took the kitchen clock.
Of course. I would have done the same.
But this is like just like a dumbass white plastic, everybody knows what they look like, kitchen clock. Okay, well, take the clock. So, okay, she leaves. I continue on, make money, have to give money now in certain unusual ways, right? Make money. And I go walking into the kitchen, and I'd walk into the kitchen, and my head would turn to look up at the clock.
Wall. Yeah, the nail in the wall.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The nail was still there in the cabinet, right? Jean, every time I'd walk in and I'd look up. At a certain point, it was humorous, because as I'm walking down the hall, I'm saying to myself, there's no clock there. There is no clock. No matter how many times you look, there's not going to be a clock. I walk into the kitchen, I have that thought, and my head starts to turn. I think, it was very enlightening and frustrating and funny. Okay, I'll finish the story, then I'll come back to the main point. So I decided one day, I got this, enough is enough. I'm going to go buy a clock.
Oh,
right. I can nail this sucker. I go out, I find what looks like same clock. And they've been making it for like 500 years, right? Same round white plastic.
Yeah.
So I buy this thing. I come home and I feel victorious. It's like, I got this. And I get up, I pull up a chair, and I stand up and on the phone, and I put it up on the nail. And I think, I just feel like life is good.
Yeah.
Right? So I get off, I step off, I turn the chair, I take 3 steps, crash.
Back on autopilot.
It fell off and broke on the floor.
No way.
Yes way. It's just like, this is way too cosmic. Okay, so the meaning of the story, the point is, it made me reflect, how many habits do I have in my mind, pattern in my, how many habits do I have that are so resistant that even when I know there's no clock, still my body turns to see the clock. And that was a humbling time for me. It was a humbling time to respect the tenacity of habituation, even when it's clearly, logically obvious that change has to happen. That competition, this is why it's so important.
You're putting the finger on a big button now.
Yeah. How do you stick it unstuck?
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Personal experience.
Yes, please. That was mine. I didn't make it up.
Wow. If I was in your shoes there, instead of buying a clock, you know what I would have done? The first day, I would have walked backward in that room. Guaranteed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So why didn't you tell me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But
all right.
This is the thing. And now it makes
so that would have softened the glue, as you're saying.
Yeah. Because this is actually, I'm jumping and looping back to the first question you asked me, how to unsoften that glue. Here's the thing. My whole life is constructed around this principle.
Yeah.
I never take the same path to go to a place
in
the street. Yeah.
I'm your opposite. It's like I'm your evil.
Never.
I always take the same path because I've always been lost my whole life.
And well, this is it. I try to take the hardest path in the wood, where you have to think about where you put your feet. If I'm in nature, in the street, I'm not going to take the same street to go to the grocery store. Just to make it different every time. I don't brush my teeth at the same time every morning, for example.
Is this a decision, or this is an ADHD thing? I mean, no.
It's a principle of life. This is how I understood that I could become better every day, is by not having any habits that make my life miserable. Because
don't you have habits that reward you, that give you good stuff?
Going to the gym, but even going to the gym is not a fixed time every day in my life. It's a various time, various places, various workouts.
I can't wait for some mom with 3 kids trying to get them off to school to do it differently every morning. I can't wait for that story.
I know.
Where's Jimmy? I don't care.
I don't care. He's gonna find his way.
Anyway, keep going. I'm just jerking your chain, but fascinating.
I don't know. Using cream for your face, for example. I'm not gonna use the same cream every day, like people would do. I'm not gonna read or listen to the same music all the time.
Okay, so this is your version of rebus.
And wait, one more.
Yep, keep going.
The painting you have behind you, if you look at the other podcast, it's not even the same decor. I'm not putting my desk here. My freaking desk is on
wheels,
casters wheels. Because I want to be able to be everywhere, anywhere, and change my spot, change my environment.
Now, one fascinating. So this is Jean Fallacara's rebus, relaxing existing beliefs using constant change without regular repetition. Okay. I'm your friend, right?
I know.
So
more than that,
I agree. Most people can't do that with their life. They have a regular job. They have to get there at a certain time. They got to get their kids' teeth brushed at a certain time. They got to make sure they had their cereal instead of a stupid Pop-Tart. How does that apply to a life that is not as as advantaged as yours?
Well, don't you think that even if you have a certain routine or certain structure in your life, there's always room for, you want to brush your teeth one way, change your hand, try to do it differently.
You
can implement details.
Make it for real. Give me 3 things, because I'm a habituated person in certain way. It's kind of, I would say, my personality. Maybe that's not true, but I am.
Well, because habit makes you comfortable, and like many people are comfortable with their habits, they don't want to change because they feel secure in those patterns. But I think that when you want to get your brain primed to the optimal stage, you need to be uncomfortable in a certain
marginal
way.
Demand, right?
Exactly.
Paying attention, marginal demand. And right now, the thing that I think is a struggle point is whether people believe that to be true. Do they have faith in that, or is it just a pain in the ass, stupid idea from Jean?
It could be a stupid idea.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but this is the reality of it. It's the buy-in, the compliant. This is, there are things that and I'm speaking you in a general. There are things that we know that are good for us, and we don't do them.
Yeah, but neuroscience can back up what I'm saying, actually, because habits can be good to be on the safe side of your brain and on autopilot all the time. And triggering neuroplasticity is created by small changes implemented, like you explained before. But I think that if you govern your life around those principles, and you say, I don't want my life to be every day exactly the same. Otherwise, it's like that movie, when you wake up every morning.
Groundhog Day.
That's it.
Bill Murray.
I hate that. I love and I hate that movie. It makes me uncomfortable to the extreme.
Why? Okay, that's a tell, right?
Because for me, it would be the extreme opposite of my ideal life. Like I couldn't stand, I couldn't survive in that every day the same thing. And he's trying to break up habits. Actually.
But you know that most people are in that life.
Yeah, I know.
So
because they want
let's
it.
help them. Let's help them.
Yeah,
that's the point. I'm trying to help them with the neurovisor. That's the
exactly. And I think that they need, you want to change habits, you need to change your brain, and to change your brain, this is it. The neurovisor.
So I'm not saying use the neurovisor. That's not my point.
Why not?
This is not a promo. So without the neurovisor, give them some advice. How do people? Maybe you've already told it. Brush your teeth the opposite hand. But real stuff that is credible, that isn't just a pain in the ass, as Jean said it. What?
Okay. Like, easy to do. Look, people are like, I'm in a gym and people see me walking backward, closing eyes, and they must be thinking this guy is psycho. It's from another planet.
There goes that backwards walking guy again.
Yeah, that's it. So
what's up with that guy?
Yeah, I don't do that like when I get into the gym, but I do that after an exercise or after some things that I'm trying to accomplish. Those are small tricks that put your brain into the receptive mode of neuroplasticity and learning. And those are not technology in a way. Walking backward, closing your eyes, or standing on one leg unbalanced. But those are simple stuff that improve your life on a daily basis. This is it. Or you go to the grocery, or you bring your kid to the school. For God's sake, don't take always the same path.
Mothers will want to strangle you. From my side, I've just finished doing a bunch, not promo stuff, but this is the point. In neurofeedback, it's clearly evident. There's no one theory in neurofeedback. It's quite an elaborate collection of concepts and methods, but it's a very promising and successful technology. In neurofeedback, there is oftentimes the appreciation of the fact that there are certain rigid patterns, like I would say the strong glue. And you want the person to change, but it won't change. And there is a process, because I just made them literally before I'm in California right now. I flew from Thailand a couple of days ago. I just finished making them. Actually, I'm kind of still tweaking them. New sessions, and they're dehabituators, that they are specifically designed as a glue softening primer, so that when you're going to do something and you want to avoid that heavy, deep groove of habituation, that there are light and sound signals that can be used that are technically called dehabituators. The habit, they soften the glue of the habit. And as part of a 3-step process, you can call it disconnect, reconnect, reinforce. So the first thing is, and you do this by walking backwards. It's hilarious, right? Like for your kids, you read the storybook from back to front. They're like, do you fuck them up with this?
All the time.
It's like I can't wait to talk to your daughter. My dad, he's the weirdest. You'll ever meet, right? If he comes to meet you and he walks up backwards and shakes your hand with his foot, right? Just go with it. Just go with the flow. But anyway, so dehabituation is extremely important. And it's one of the things that, and you'll find it in a lot of different traditions, you see some kids automatically do it, or even at chimps and things, where you spin round and round and round, right? That's a dehabituator. That scrambles the neurological legs with proprioception. So, I think we have a theme here, but trying to find the theme, right? The theme, I keep on looking at this chick behind you with her face and eyes. It's like,
more and more like,
right?
I didn't know.
Anyway, that don't expect that, I'll call it a habit or a belief that you've had for a long while that needs to change, will change just because you want it to. That there is a priming process. There is a process that's required to soften the glue. And for people that have, to go back to the trauma and the deep fear of PTSD, certain things have to happen that will desensitize the amygdala so that the threat alarm doesn't go off so so easily. When that alarm goes off, listen, somebody can talk to you for 10 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're gone. If you're sitting in the room, believe me, you're not in your body. Right? So it's not the same thing as softening the glue. In that case, it's reducing the emotional reactivity through neurological processes. There are drugs. That's not my thing.
Okay.
But, so you've got these two cases, and Huberman characterizes this, I think, in a really great way. So I'll borrow his phrase, that you want to activate the courage circuit because you're locked in the fear circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you switch from the fear circuit and activate the courage circuit? Because the courage, the heroic, hero's journey, neuroplastic change. And in that case, it isn't the dehabituation is going to hit the security guard full on and you're going to freeze. So, but there are neurological, okay, I apologize, but because, I've also crafted sessions. There's very good new EMDR research that not only validates the neurological mechanisms, but it shows that you can do it with alternating bilateral photic stimulation, especially when you piggyback it with certain brain frequencies. And I've made them. I've begun using them, and they're for real. They're for real. And the game there is you create a kind of a disposition with certain, whether you're working with alpha zone or a theta zone, beta zone. It depends on what kind of lighting works for them, regardless of which frequencies you're using. It's the EMDR process that is the factor. And in a case like that, the vigilance, the emotional reactivity that is reflexive and organic is reduced. It goes down so that then when they are reminded of a trigger, that doesn't trigger the same degree of emotional reactivity. So the memories or the triggers environmental start to become more factual, more actual. They're not representing that bad thing that happened and that horrible thing that happened in the past. So it's a slow recalibration of the emotional reactivity at a neurological level that then things that would flip the switch, they don't flip the switch as much before. And then what is supposed to happen in dreams where unresolved emotional conflicted experiences go through revision and interpretation eventually for resolution, that doesn't happen for a PTS person. The dreams don't work because the triggers block the integration. So if you can bring it, so to me, as I say these days, because, with the thing I have, Neurovisor, I call it the change maker. And I thought, well, that's really cool because change. Yeah. But the fact is that some people don't want to change. Some people are afraid of change. So just the concept of change itself is not necessarily positive for people everywhere.
Garnet, do you really think that some people don't want to change, or I think that
no, it's not want, they can't.
Yeah,
despite the fact that they want.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like I think that 100% of the population wants to change, but
because of
you're
pain.
Right. Yeah,
because of pain.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to suffer.
Yeah,
but they want to, but they can't. They don't know how.
Yeah.
There are different things, like they're not using the dehabituation glue to soften the habit, or they don't have any way of down regulating the reflexive fear threat response. So whether you want to, wanting to change is a good thing if you need to change. But that's my whole point, even how I began this, and really respecting your openness to talk about it personally, is okay, I know that you want to, but I don't know how. I don't know how. And part of it is soften the glue, prime the brain.
So your work is
relax
like
relax existing beliefs using something. And then
so
the other is I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're the facilitator of that small part that is missing in the process of making it happen.
Well, it's the key that unlocks the door. The key is not big compared to the door, but the door won't open.
Right.
So this is this is not discussed enough, and specifically in this case, the biohacker community, which I respect. I cut my teeth in the human potential movement, which was, for me, this is kind of like the sequel, but this is the issue. Even then, change. Yeah, but just because you want to change, oftentimes you don't know how to change. Like in biofeedback, the simplest old biofeedback, because I did the biofeedback earlier on as well. Here's your finger, increase the temperature in your finger. So the simplest thing, this little thermographic device, cheap, like $10, puts there, you read the temperature. And okay, make it warmer. Weirdly, for most people, it's a paradoxical effect. The first thing that happens is it gets colder. because they don't know how. Essentially it's relax, plus, right? But this is the thing, it's attention without tension. It's that tension, that effort thing where, oh, go ahead, relax, just try to relax.
No,
that's the stupidest thing you can say to anybody.
You go the
try
opposite.
To relax.
You go the opposite.
Right? Okay, so this thing, and after a while they can make it get warmer, but usually, almost always, it's with some kind of imagery. They imagine their hand is in hot water, or they're laying on the beach in the tropics, right? They don't know how to make it. They can only do it by association. So now you've got into Qigong techniques. So I have the wonderful opportunity to practice and I had a teacher in Qigong. And there's a theory, they say, where the chi, prana energy, whatever, where the chi goes, the blood follows. Where the chi goes, the blood follows. And this is the punchline, where the mind is, the chi is.
The cheese.
Where the mind is, the chi is, and where chi goes, blood follows. Which takes us all the way back to the brain changes what matters. Attention. The mind, whatever that is, mind, brain, blah, blah, where the mind focuses, where the mind goes, right? The chi goes there and the blood follows, and the neurogenesis and the synaptic opportunity. So it's this thing of awareness, of consciousness, and how do we get used to doing this? How many people do you know that have a matured skill of experiencing deep conscious relaxation at will?
None.
And this is where we're crippled. That we carry so much unresolved metabolic demand and stress.
Right.
As soon as you start to relax, you slide all the way down and you crash. Not being able to hang out in that hypnagogic state, the so-called waking dreams, not the sleeping dreams, the waking dreams. How to just decide, okay, now I'm going to just stop. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let it go. It starts, is it physical or it doesn't matter. That physical, non-physical doesn't count, and let go, because usually you feel the tension in your body, right? And you let it go and you keep on going, Jean, keep on going, more and more and more relaxed, and stay conscious. The relaxation is not the goal, but it is the gateway. What lies on the other side of conscious relaxation? That wall, that gate that opens up is,
it's magical. But
it's magical.
It's magical. It's true. I think that to get through that gate, you need to set up your environment to make it happen. It's not everywhere, anywhere.
How do you relax? And do you relax?
You know what? I'm spending sometimes 2 hours doing nothing, but nothing.
Do you sit? Do you stand? Do you lay down? You walk?
Whatever.
How do you do nothing?
No, I can sit and watch the sky, listen to the city noise background without putting attention to anything. It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And it can be an hour, can be 20 minutes.
Did you always know how to do that? I
think that naturally I've had this tendency of trying to be by myself and alone with this requirement of I'm getting headaches when I'm surrounded by too many people, for example. I hate going to parties because it's for me too much information that is useless.
So how do you turn ADHD into periods of
I don't know,
naturally relaxed state?
It turns by itself. It's just like that. These moments of being me are super important to quiet my mind and to relax. And then I can relax, and I can do meditation in the morning, at night, before sleeping or whatsoever. It has nothing to do with meditation, but it's just those moments where you are you, just you. Nothing counts or has an importance except being where you are. That's it. So that's
okay. So let's go back to the mom that has 2 jobs and three kids.
Put them on the bed.
Not a rich, handsome guy with an art collection. Right? who now lives in Miami because he finally got it his that Boston weather sucks. Right. So, I mean, this is cool. You know, Jean Fallacara, my idol. When I grow up, I want to be Jean or married to him at least, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So what about the rest of the world, Jean? what do we do?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm speaking honestly, I'm being playful, but it's also important, right?
It is important, and I think that in these hectic lives of many people, and I do understand those lives. People are like always feeling stressed, under pressure by many things, but put it in perspective, Garnet. How many things in their days are they doing that have really an importance or an impact on their lives? Cut the fucking crap on that. Get rid of these things and put the finger where it is important. And you're going to have enough time in a day that is 24 hours to sleep 7 to 9 hours, to bring your kid, feed them, wash them, whatever. You still will have a certain time just for you. It's a question of organizing your life, and it's not related to money, success, business, work, whatsoever. It's you and yourself is deciding that instead of scrolling down this freaking phone to check what you're going to forget as soon as you close the phone anyway, but you'll stay there for an hour. Don't do that. You're going to save 1 hour. And those moments, it's because people think that they are an important life because they are overwhelmed or busy. I think that you have an important life when you have that freedom of having the time. Yeah. And thanks God you're helping people.
Okay, there's the formula. That's what you do. I'm going to go back to the same thing, because there are people that will want to do this. They see this podcast. They say, it's great. These guys had a great talk, and Jean really made a lot of sense. And they want to do it.
Okay.
But it's like they do it for a day, and then the habit comes back, and they lose it. How do you unstick that habit that has been there for even though you suffer? I mean, this is the reality. Like people say, quitting cigarettes is easy. I've done it like 1,000 times. A little bit different because that's a biological addiction. But this is the point, that I'm not squeezing you. I'm squeezing the topic, because I reflect on this all the time, and I try to create technology that helps. Right? I mean,
but I think that your technology will definitely help many of these people that are stuck in that situation. Other than that, and I'm in agreement with what you said. It's not given to everybody to be self-aware or to be conscious enough to understand who you are without any lies. Like, you are this way with no mask. No hidden walls, no glass, no mirrors, no shiny stuff. You are like that. You admit it, you deal with it, you work with it. And if it doesn't please you, you make it better in the places that you don't like. Some people are just stuck in those situations and pattern, because instead of thinking about who they are thinking how they are going to be judged by others. And is that so important? I don't give damn that what people think around me. And I'm the one that you don't see coming. I dress like a bump. I don't care.
A bump.
Hey, I am a bump. I'm a punk.
You're a punk. You're a punk bump. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when you said this, the thing that pops into my mind is I don't think about it like this, but it came to my mind. Does it have much to do with what we'll call self-love? I don't know. I don't usually think of it that way. But
I think, or maybe not self-love, because the word love is quite an heavy one for many.
That's what I mean. It's a tricky one, right?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. But I think that self-acceptance is probably the one that is more accurate. Because, I'm not perfect. I have flaws, but I look at them and I'm okay with that. I can deal with it. I can survive. I can make them, like, instead of saying that those are my flaws, I just I can work to change them by walking backward, for example. Things like that. But I'm going to at least try to do something.
Right. If I break my wrist, I'll give you a call. Okay. What are you doing?
First
walking downstairs backwards. What are you, stupid? maybe, but Jean told me to try it.
And he said that you have to close your eyes too.
Oh yeah, right.
Make it more dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay.
no, I got that. I understand those things. It's just like, Garnet, with all the love I have for you, and I use the word love, I think that you're doing something fantastic. Is like, it's not
Thank
only
you.
generous, but it's like fascinating, because I can explain those tricks for hours and hours. Some people will never be able to do it, and I agree on that. But thanks God, you're there.
Okay, well, I appreciate that from you, brother. I do. Thank you. I'm doing my best. It's like
you do it well.
Well, I'll never turn down good luck. All right, I'll never turn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that it's not the point at all. It's just one of the funniest blues lines I've ever heard. Right, that song is, "If it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all."
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, that's not the point, but I
one.
remembered it. It's just funny. It's funny.
Yeah. But that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, Garnet,
Okay.
It was a great pleasure having this talk. We've been talking for a long time. Hopefully people will listen. 6.
Oh, two and a quarter hours or something.
Yeah. So that's was fantastic. As it's beautiful, because every time he goes, and it's like I love this. I love these intellectual exchanges. Remember, I made that comment on your post, but as my conclusion to this thing, like, being self-aware is something. Being like awareness of yourself or whatever is good, but those intellectual discussions are a must for your brain.
Well, especially when they're connected to the heart at the same time. It's heartfelt. I mean, I could talk theory, you could talk theory, but because I know you as much as I do, I know we can be real. We can go from the heart. We can joke around a little bit, push some buttons, and otherwise it's just yak.
And it turns to be boring, because, as you said, and we said it at the beginning, like, if you look at all the podcasts, most of the time one guy goes to one podcast, to the other, and he's repeating always the same stuff. So you watch or you listen to one, and you have always the same feedback, whatever. So what is the purpose of that? And when you ask me how to structure your podcast, I'm the master of chaos. I don't structure anything, not even my life.
All right.
Thank you, Garnet.
By the way, take a photo of that. Well, no, I'll have it. I'll take a screenshot from the podcast.
I'll send you.
I need you. I don't know what her name is, but I need you, because now that, like, you're branded in my brain with this, I don't know, with you're a medium, and she's speaking through you.
Yeah, she's like.
It's the it's the eye, the white eyes, the whatever.
It's because it's spotting on my brain. Yeah,
exactly. She's like she's been staring into your head the whole time.
The whole time she didn't move, and steady.
Well,
much love, brother. Okay. I'll get this podcast out very soon, because I loved it, and I want people to understand cool. Your job. We're gonna do sequences with brain stuff and talks, because they look super cool. And allow me, please, to promote the Neurovisor into those things, because I think he deserves some sort of.
Okay, well, it's deeply appreciated. You know that. So blessings, and thank you, man.
Thank you, my man. Big love.
Okay. By the way, what took you so long to move to Miami?
I don't know.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, you know what? This is the thing. I've realized to a point that why I didn't do it. I'm here now.
Well, I made the same decision 14 years ago, and my answer was Thailand. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think same thing. Okay. Ciao, my man.
Okay.
Bye.
Luego, man. Bye.